Hi everyone, I'm really happy because today joining me is Rhonda Salvestrini, and she's a writing coach. And first time I'm interviewing a writing coach, and I write books myself, so we got lots of common, and we have some fabulous chat before, so I'm super excited. So, a little introduction. So, apart from being a writing coach, she is a professional writer for more than 25 years, and she has helped writers to see the clarity through the chaos, overcome hurdles of frustration, transform their self-doubt, which is, we all face it really seriously when we start to write a book or anything at all. She has also supported aspiring authors bring their story to life. Sometimes some of them are long-time writers trying to complete the memoir, and also TEDx speakers bring the audience to their feet. So that is super cool. Many of us want to be on TED Talk, so good tips will be from Rhonda. She has a mission. It's to help authors to feel energized and excited about the writing process, because to be honest, many of us find it really hard, especially to find confidence, to find our voice, and to be inspired to write fearlessly. So everybody should connect with Rhonda if you are really thinking about writing or becoming an author. So welcome to my show, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, great. So I got a lot of questions to ask you, but first up, please tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you told me before, but in your own words, tell us, the audience, how do you become a writing coach?
Right. So like you said, for 25 years, I've been a professional writer. I was working in high tech. I've worked for companies like PlayStation and Teradata. I've run communications departments, and I've always trained writers and coached writers. And outside of my professional field, I've always helped writers tell their stories, be it a blog post, be it a long form article or a book. I've always been the one they've come to, and it's been an organic growth, which I love. So for the past 12 years, I've been doing that. And I finally said, let's lean into it wholeheartedly. And so I really wanted to step into coaching because I understand how fearful writing can be. In fact, this morning I was on with a client and she said, words scare me. So I don't want people to be fearful of words, and I want people to get over the hurdles. So it's really been my mission, like you said, to get people more excited about writing, and I know that's my strength, is to help them through those hurdles. And so that's why I became a writing coach.
And I love what you just tell us about the lady who says she's scared of words, because words can be scary if you use it in a way to scare people, because it brings such an impact. Some of us bring our creativity through arts, is in dancing or music, and many of us like to write. And I think a lot of people probably find it easier to write, but to create an impact is a different thing. I think that sometimes scares and frustrates people, is that there's so much you want to say and share, but you want to bring it home, you want to create an impact, and that's not easy. And I don't know, maybe that's when I think about writing, that's what maybe not scares me, but hold me back, because I want to do something great, but I also know that if I don't start, I would not do anything. So creating something is better than creating nothing. And then I need people like you to help me to make it great, maybe.
Well, and you bring up a solid point. And my expertise is in nonfiction. And so you're right. When a thought leader or an author like yourself, you have so much to say, but you don't know how to structure it. I always say, let's start with an outline. Let's get down the ideas first. And, we'll fill it in, but get everything out, because maybe there's two books in you. Maybe there's a combination of books that you can pair up. There are so many different idiosyncrasies that we can look at. But let's make sure you're getting all of that information out regardless, even on your first draft. I mean, Ernest Hemingway said it best, that your first draft is shit. And he's right, but that's the time where you let yourself just write fearlessly. Don't judge yourself. Don't self-edit. Just give yourself the space to really write. And with nonfiction, it's very intentional. Not saying that fiction isn't, But nonfiction is very purposeful. It's very intentional. So we want to get everything out, all of those golden nuggets, to see where we are and to see how we can structure it and move forward. And like I said, maybe have another book out of it.
I love what you said, and really like already got two more questions from what you just said. One of them is that, when we take classes, or when we, like, for example, I do a lot of like online courses that to do with creativity or learning, right, how to write and so forth. And a lot of them actually focus on fiction, about plot, about structure, not so much about nonfiction. And you were right, like we still need to go through a process for nonfiction, because you want to have a good nonfiction book, not a boring manual, right? So, and
you're still telling a story at the end
yes,
of the day.
Yes. So like, I'm really interested, I mean, partly for my selfish reason, because I'm a nonfiction writer. So do you have a particular process? I was planning to ask you about writing process, but this could be a coaching process with nonfiction writer. Like, so we got so many things we want to share, or personal experience, or, like teachers, right? You got something you want to share that can help people. So is that a process that you use or recommend? Because like Dr. Lam, we want to still have a story or make it interesting, not like manual. So what's your take
You're
on
right.
it?
You want it to be impactful. So
Yes.
we start with your why. Why are you writing this book?
Mm-hmm.
What is your objective for this book? And it's interesting that you mentioned a teacher, because one of my clients is a school administrator here, and he's writing a book about how broken he thinks our public school system is here in the
Right.
States. So let's get back, let's pull the layers back. Why do you want to write this book? Really, what is the message you want to get out to your audience?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to position that message? So I really, when I talk with my clients, I really want to understand at a deeper level why they want to write this book. And one of my clients, the school administrator, said to me, he didn't want to come across as angry. And
Yes.
so when I did read a sampling of his book, it was. And so I was glad that he said that. So we had something to work with, and we knew a position to take.
Yes.
But we always want to start at the beginning, and I want to see an outline so I understand your journey, because of what's in your head isn't in mine. I'm going to see your story differently, but I really want to understand why you want to do this, where your heart is in it, and really the message that you want to send to your audience. Who are you speaking to? Who is your audience? So I think it's those little things that we need to figure out before we start diving into the story anyway.
Wow, perfect. Because I don't know, okay, so many things here. Number one, everybody should have a writing coach like Rhonda, because
Thank you.
especially nonfiction, because I think people sometimes don't think about it. But I won't say that your book is like a business asset, but if you want to share your message, you want people to buy your book or at least read it, right? And even if you give a free copy, some of us may have free copy, you still want people to read it. So there's a strategy behind how you position yourself so that people actually want to read it. And these days there's so many books out there, and not all of us, everybody have very limited time. So to actually get your material being read, you actually need to be grateful in a way.
Right.
So and it is, you got this, what you said was gold, because I think how you position yourself is so important. And sometimes we have all the information in our head. We need someone like you standing outside from our head and a third person perspective, and tell us how you think you can position this and market this so that more people can read your book. It's not about just business marketing. It's actually how we're going to spread the message. And that's so important. And I think now when you talk about it, I think about my books, that I need to have that conversation with someone like you to say, I know what you want to say, but you say you don't want to be angry, but sorry, I think you sound angry.
You're a little angry. So it's that, and I want to say too, your writing coach, it's a very personal relationship. You want to make sure that you click. And, not everyone will click with each other. So you have to make sure that you can be honest with one another, that you can receive the feedback in a in a positive light. You see it as constructive. You don't see it as defensive. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important that you have that open relationship and that you feel very comfortable with your writing coach, because you're going to get into a very personal journey. Writing is personal in and of
Mm.
itself, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. It's very personal, and you're on a journey. So you want to make sure that writing coach is going to help you along with your journey, and you're going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's just like anything, it's all about personal relationship. And
Mhm.
obviously that if you click with your writing coach, then you can bring the message out better, and we all need that. And so who do you think needs a writing coach? Is it everybody, or a first time writer, or even seasoned writer? Like, what do you say when people ask you who needs a writing coach?
I think everybody needs a writing coach. I need a writing coach when I'm writing. Like you said, it's a different perspective. It's
Mm-hmm.
fresh eyes. It's someone who's going to look at your piece and see something in it that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big key factor. Someone who is going to walk you through the overwhelm. Someone who's going to help you see the nuggets that you're writing and help you pull them out to enhance them and expand upon them for your reader. So everybody who is serious about their writing, I think, needs a writing coach. And that can span very different genres and very different industries. I help CEOs. I help authors. I help coaches. So it's not just specific to authors.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different people who want to write something, be it, like I said, a long form article, a book, an industry piece. The help of a writing coach will get them further along faster and
Yeah.
help them really feel confident in what they're putting out.
Yeah, and one of the thing is that no matter what, whether, as you said, whether it's a speech or an article or a book, I think one of the thing is that with, especially with nonfiction, it's so easy for in the trap that we're trying to tell people something rather than show
Yes.
them. So this,
Yes.
nobody want to be told. We want to sort of learn the lesson in our own way. Like if you tell us like you need to do this, you shouldn't be like that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen. It's the same. That's the power of someone like you. Like I can imagine same CEO that you can help them to draft a speech that can move people to tears versus bore people to death, even though it's the same guy.
And that's a perfect example. I mean, I helped this nonprofit founder write his memoir about his son who he lost to medical negligence. And he was so close to the story
Mm,
that he wasn't taking his reader on a journey. He was just talking at them through his words. So I had to let him know that people don't know that your immediate family has 22 people in it. You need to tell them. People don't understand the pain that your son was going through. You need to express it in a different way. So it's those little nuances that will help create such a more enriching story,
mm-hmm.
something that's so deep and moving, or something that's funny, or something that's informative. So that's where I think a writing coach really
Mm-hmm.
helps.
Yeah, definitely. I cannot agree with you more because when we're too close to it, we don't see, and sometimes you need someone to really that's actually a skill as well. I guess some writer, very seasoned writer, you can tell that they've been doing it, like they've written 30 books. Sometimes they really get that part where how to make sure they don't fall into those traps. But I think working with someone always bring you fresh energy and perspective, but new impulses as well. So I guess that leads to my next question. Like, why are you so passionate about helping aspiring authors? So what do you get out of it in that sense?
I've always been passionate about words. I love words. I always say that I'm not numbers, I'm words. And I've just always been very passionate about helping people tell their stories. I watch people struggle with writing, and I don't want it to be that hard. I want them to enjoy the process. And so I really have this passion for helping people tell their stories. And I think that's where this is why I've landed where I have. I'm really feeding my soul and helping them speak their passions.
Mm. you know, what came to my mind was this. I also love words and I love good writing. And, you know, some people, I was just reading a book yesterday. It's the same. It's a, you know, a very dry topic, but that is a really great writer and she make it fun. And I also love people who write really deep and meaningful things. So I love words. But my little funny question is, so I marry a guy who has very few words, and I felt that people who love words tend to marry a guy with very few words. I wonder, is your husband very few words?
So quiet. I'm the talker, absolutely the talker. I'm the one who breaks the ice at a party. I'm the one who introduces us to strangers. But once he gets to know people, he does speak more. But yes, he's a man of few words.
Yeah,
And he's our numbers guy.
It's similar to my husband. I tend to, like, I don't know, I'm not drawing statistic here, but I have this tendency to feel people like us tend to marry a guy with few words so we can speak more. I don't know.
Right.
But
I think it's just that yin and the yang of it.
yes,
Like,
yin and yang.
you know,
Well, yeah, that's a
you can't
nice
have
way
two
to put
chatty
it.
people.
But you know, sometimes the thing is that he has great one-liners, but it's one-liners.
And that's it. And you're like, wait up, I'm stuck holding the conversation here.
Yeah, I'm paragraphs, you know.
You're right. I'm going to use that. I'm paragraphs. He's
one-liners.
I love that.
And the funny thing is that sometimes I want to tell him like an experience or something, and I think I'm giving like a speech that you should move to tears. Yeah. And then he would go, I agree. Uh-huh. And you're like, wow, if that's a speech I'm going to give tomorrow, I really should worry. Like, do you feel like anything? Yes.
Right. I know this morning I had gone to I was invited to a networking event, and there was just so much positivity and so much energy and so much collaboration. And I started telling my husband about it, and I felt like I spoke for a good 15 minutes straight. And I said to him, I said, wow, I'm really talky today. He's like, yep. Just left it at that.
But the thing is that though, like sometimes I wonder, oh my God, like what if maybe my speech wasn't good? Like, you know, if I practice something on him. But then sometimes he would say yes, but there's an emotional reaction on the face. So I felt maybe even tears in the eyes, or maybe that's what I should be looking for. It's not about what people say, and it's like maybe how they're. Anyway, I'm slightly off track, but you know, for those who have a lot of words out there, don't worry. Like, you know,
it's interesting you say that though, because it is about emotion as well. And so we want to see that when we're talking to other people, but when we're reading someone's book, when we're reading someone's article or blog post, it's how it makes us feel. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting that emotion out of it. And so we always want to make sure we're using our emotion through our words. And so we're connecting with our audience that way.
I think that's really the skill and the craft about good writing, because you're supposed to move people. Again, you show or you connect, you move them. You're not telling them, because that would be very annoying if someone tell you, like, you know, you should feel this way if you read this.
Right. You want to have your own opinion about the piece. And that was one of the beautiful things when I helped the founder write his book, the founder of the nonprofit. In the end, the reviews we received were that people sat down and read it in one sitting because they didn't want to put it down, and they were moved to tears at the end. And that to me was such a joy, because I was able to help him tell his story, and it touched and moved so many people. So I think that's where a writing coach can really help an author tell their story.
Wow. Okay. So that's something that I really want to ask you. So now we all want to have that review. Oh, it was a page turner. Yeah. It moved me to tears. But a lot of us feel that we may have a good story. We may have some good material, but how do we, I mean, is it something like everybody can write a page turner? Really, that's something that I think a lot of aspiring authors struggle with, that you feel that you can't write such a good book. I mean, can we really do it? You know, that's often the question, you know. So what do you say to that? Do people really want to create something like that?
Regardless, you're still creating something great. You're still doing it. And I think when we judge ourselves is where we have our limitations. We
Mm.
impose that head garbage and those self doubts rather than just pouring our whole self into it. And I think that's where a writing coach really comes in handy, if you will, because
Mm.
I help you really just get outside of yourself. And don't get me wrong, I get stuck in my head too when I'm writing.
Mm.
But if we get out of our own way and just really write with our hearts and really tell our story, it, be it funny, be it sad, be it informational, if we're talking from our hearts, we can't be questioned and we can't be told it's a bad story. If someone says that it's a bad story or they're criticizing you, then that's not your audience, that's not
Mm.
who you want to speak to.
Mm. It feels like you're talking about we just have to trust it. Like, say
Mhm.
we really got a story to share, we really feel moved to share, an experience or something we have learned. We just have to trust that, isn't it? That you have to follow that. And do you have any like tips or ways that you can help people to get into that zone, or or some people say finding your voice, like get into that sort of, I don't know, place?
Place, yeah. No, you hit the nail right on the head. We have to trust the process. The process might be messy, it might take a left turn sometimes, but you have to trust the process. And the one beautiful thing with nonfiction is finding your voice as being your authentic self. So trusting yourself, trusting that the voice you have will speak to an audience, even if it's just one person, although we want to speak to many. We want to just touch someone in some way. And if we're using our authentic voice, nobody can fault us for that. And so as long as you really trust in yourself, trust in your process, and when you hit some hurdles, you find ways to get through them with a writing coach or with some tools that I can help with, or tools you've collected along the way, like taking a walk sometimes or doing something other than your book, that will help you get through the stuck, if you
Mm.
will, to really concentrate on what you want to tell your audience in a very authentic, transparent way that shows your vulnerability, and that just creates a lot of trust with your audience as well.
And like some people talk about how obviously we want more than one person to read what we write,
Of
but
course.
some people talk about you have to write to that one person, as in like an avatar or something. Like, what's your take on it? Do you advise that, or do you do it yourself, that you kind of write to a person? Is that how it works for you?
That's what I do, and that's what I recommend to my clients, especially when they're stuck. I'll say, who is your audience? Who are you writing to? And to me, when you're writing, you're really having a conversation. Perhaps it might be a little more formal than you would talk to somebody, but a good practice, if you're stuck especially, is to sit down and just have a conversation with that person in your head, speak it out loud as you're typing, and pretend like you're having a one-on-one conversation. I've had some clients tape a picture of somebody up on their monitor to help them. Whatever tricks help. But one thing that I do when I'm writing, if I'm writing a blog post or an industry article, I verbally say out loud, who am I speaking to? And then I get myself in this more relaxed state where I slow down. And a lot of times I'll start with pen and paper, because pen and paper slows you down. It
Mm.
slows your thinking down. Studies have shown that you get into a more focused state, you have more concentration. So I start with that. Another trick, dedicate time to write. And I tell my clients to start with 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, so you don't feel overwhelmed by it. Have a dedicated space where you can be uninterrupted for those 30 minutes and get yourself into a writing place in your head where you're
Mm.
comfortable, where you're excited to go into that room or your little corner of the world and write. Set your timer and write, and just be focused on that and let all of the other distractions go away for that time.
So do you tend to, for yourself or recommend your clients, so when you write to that avatar or that person, does it have to be a real person, or can that be like a imagined person? Like, how does that work in that sense? You're speaking to somebody, so it become more personal, but does it have to be someone you know? What do we want to reach audience that, like, other grieving mothers, for instance, like, for example? So how does it work?
It's all based on who you want to reach. So for instance, you say other grieving mothers. If you're the only one and you haven't joined a group of other grieving mothers, then you have to make someone up, of course.
And that's
It's
okay,
always different, and that's totally okay. Whatever
right?
works for you. It's a very personal journey. There's no one size fits all when it comes
Yeah.
to writing. And yes, there are mechanics, don't get me wrong. But I don't want to get stuck in that. Let's get your story out. Let's deal with the mechanics later.
So you kind of do both, isn't it? You inspire them, and you help support them to get the words out, get over the initial hurdle about confidence or who to speak to, and then there are mechanics involved. So it's sort of both yin and yang together.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll do the writing coaching, and then I also offer developmental editing, which really works on the structure of your book to make sure you have a nice flow of information. And then I also have customized packages so we can do deeper editing to go through the mechanics and to go through, the copywriting and the proofing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really good because for those who may be interested to write something, that there are different kind of editing. You mentioned there's the developmental editing, the copy editing, and then at the end, of course, proofreading. So for those that may be not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about each so they have a bit more in their head? Because, many writers talk about your first draft reeling. It's often very far away from your finished book but it's so important to get your first draft out. But then there's actually a lot of work into it, and editing is super, super important. So tell us a little bit more about it, because I think it'd be very helpful.
Right. So there's so many different aspects to editing. Your first draft could be your fifth draft, could be your 10th draft. Do you want to self-edit? Maybe. Do you want to have a manuscript review? Maybe, by a third person. So with developmental editing, like I said, we're going to look at either a partial piece of your manuscript or all of it. And we're going to go through and look at the structure, look at what you're trying to achieve, and see your flow of information and how I can help you tell your story better with just moving some things around. And look at, what needs to be expanded on. Do we have context? Are we really telling the reader everything that we can about this piece? It's really taking your story from good to great. Now, there are different processes, and some people do them differently. You've got the copy editing, where you're going through the sentence structure, you're going through the mechanics of writing, you're looking for typos, you're looking for sentence fragments, the who, what, where, why, how, all of that, the adjectives, the nouns, is everything used correctly? And then at the end, you have the proofing. And with the different levels of editing, you can go through different rounds. And it's important that you have fresh eyes on your writing. You don't want to, spend 2 hours writing and then go right into editing. You want to give it some space, give your head some space, give the book some space, and let it breathe. Because when you come back, you're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have fresh eyes. You won't have looked at it multiple times, because we tend to have that blindness when we're looking at something over and over again. And if a word is missing, we won't see it because we've looked at it so many times. So oftentimes I say to my clients, let your piece breathe for a day to a week, and then come back to it with just a fresh perspective, so that you can see what's missing, see what's wrong.
And that's fantastic way of explaining all this. And I know that some people really need developmental editing. Some people, maybe they have done a lot of work, or they know what they're talking about, or they're very experienced. They don't need as much, but I think every project and every person is different. So and I cannot agree with you more about the leaving it like almost like, is it wine or whiskey, that you have to let it breathe for a while.
Wine.
Then you come back to it, and then that would be more mature and ready. Because the same for me when I'm working on my current book, I think I got it, but then because of the baby and everything, I pack it, and now I'm completely disconstructing it and then putting back in a very different way. And so and sometimes some other books come to your life and you realize, oh, that's a really great structure, and and then I want to borrow from it or something.
But isn't it exciting for you to come back and see your book in a whole new light, see your manuscript in a whole new light? You look at what you created and you have these fresh ideas and these new ways that you want to structure it so that it'll be even better than what you have originally.
Yeah, and I think you talk about trust early on, and that's the thing, because I felt I got content, I got the material, but I felt that something isn't quite right, as in, I would say maybe it's the structure or the format or something, and I couldn't put my finger on it, and I just need to pack it. And I trust that inner guidance saying, pack it, don't rush, don't try to push it out. And then now, after actually a couple of months, because I have a baby in between, now I have a completely different way of trying to tell the story, or a completely different structure from the get-go. And that only came about because I leave enough time and space. So for some people, maybe weeks, days, for me, a couple of months. But I think it's about the trust again, that you need to listen to inner voice, whether it's, ready to give it to someone to look at, or you need to wait and something yet to happen. I think that's a fine line, because sometimes we need to trust and then wait for the right time. Sometimes we're overdoing, and it's just that we're scared of give it to someone. So what do you say to people in that really challenging, great fine line?
Oh, you bring up an amazing point. Yes. It's that fear, the fear of giving it to someone. But let me back up a little bit in that I want to point out what you were saying, where we give it time to breathe. We don't want to rush a book. I mean, there are so many people out there who say, oh, we could write your book in a day. We could write your book in a couple of months. Don't do that. I don't encourage that. I encourage you to take your time. And I always say to my clients, this is going to be a journey, and it's going to take a better part of a year. So let's hunker down and really know that this is what we're getting into. But you're right. When it comes to allowing someone to see what you've written, you have to have trust that you're going to get positive and constructive feedback. And you just have to know that you're going to take your book to a new place by allowing someone else to look at it. And don't be fearful of the criticism, even though you are, because that's just naturally who we are. We don't want to be judged, but that's a hurdle to get over. And it's only going to improve your book that much more by doing so, by letting someone else into your world. I mean, it's really a gift. You're gifting someone into a very private world of yours that you've been so focused on, and now you're letting someone else see it. It's truly a gift.
Well, I would say that from trust, we're going to move into brave, because you have to be brave to show it to someone, because as you said, it's only going to be better if you give it to someone that you know is going to help you. It's like going to see a dentist, if that makes sense.
Sure. And it takes courage too. It takes a lot of courage to not only write your book, but it does take courage to say to somebody, okay, here it is, take a look and let me know what you think.
That's why, like we said from the beginning, you have to have a positive relationship, because it's like you're giving someone your baby. You kind of need someone to look after properly, like not being too cruel and all that. And so it's so wonderful to come to this point, because I think we cover about trust and about being brave, and I think if someone has a book in them and want to further the writing, definitely, I think what we talk about really highlight how important it is to work with someone. So if people want to get in touch, what's the best way to get in touch with you and find out how they can work with you?
So I invite everyone to visit my website at rhondasalvestrini.com and schedule a free 15-minute developmental call with me, a discovery call where we will talk about your project, kind of the frustrations you're going through, and hopefully see whether I can help.
Fantastic. So I will put the full name of your website on this blog post as well.
Okay.
So don't worry about the spelling, and everyone can connect with you. And I'm really excited to share this podcast, because I know you're going to help a lot more people to become an author, if not becoming a better author. So myself included. And so really thank you so much for joining us today. And
Thank you.
thank you.